which was originally set up to encourage the university sector in Scotland to get an understanding for what the Advancing Manufacturing Cluster projects were doing, with a view to seeing whether there was an opportunity to engage. We then widened that over the last week or so to invite Scottish SMEs, and there'll be people from both academia and SMEs on this call, and hopefully by the end of the session, when we'll have presentations from 7 of the projects, including MMIS, everybody will have a very good idea whether that makes sense or not. So let's move on to the next slide, please, Jane. Thanks to Jane, who's operating the slides, and Josie in the background sending people off who may have joined another meeting which ran in parallel. But a few housekeeping rules. If you're not speaking, can you turn your camera off and set your microphone to mute? It's sometimes you get avoid the problems of bandwidth and phasing in and out, so I think that's a good thing to do. Use the chat box to share information about yourself, particularly if you're not one of the projects. Most projects know about each other, but do let us know why you've joined here and what you think we might do for you, or what you're looking for. Just to let you know, the webinar will be recorded and we'll share the presentations with everybody after the event. Jane, next one, thanks. So yeah, some notes about SEED, because there will be people here who don't know about SEED, and then I'll come on to the Advancing Manufacturing Cluster Builder before we get to the meat and veg of the presentation itself. SEED's a community, and it works to solve the operational issues raised by member companies. And how we do this is in a number of different ways. Most commonly, if the challenge that your business faces will be of a similar nature to that felt by other member companies, and we'll often put together a workshop to address this type of challenge if we think that's the case. A workshop is much like this at the moment, a group of individuals drawn from companies which face similar challenges to your own, and it's drawn from companies which have existing expertise or experience of solving those challenges. But if your issue is unique, then we might put together a one-to-one project where we'll call upon the expertise of a single member company, or possibly even an academic partner, to identify a solution. Universities will often come to SEED and say to us that they're looking for a partner or somebody to join a project application with expertise in a particular area, and I think there are 7 or 8 universities under SEED membership, and we can work with you as universities if you approach us and ask us what it is that you're looking for. Some people know SEED from the education programs, notably the Growth 500 program, which is a training program for our member of employees, and about our leadership program and mentoring mix-up programs. I'm not going to say very much about those, but if you do want to know about them, do get in touch with us, and we'll talk to you about how you can participate in those. Next one, though, Jane, please. So SEED was appointed at the onset of the development of the Cluster Builder program as the Cluster Builder program manager for something which is called the Advancing Manufacturing Cluster Builder Initiative, and that's what we're going to hear about from 7 of the 12 projects today. This was established in 2019, I think it was, to create a national network of regionally based initiatives that were envisaged as a means of improving the innovation performance of Scotland's SMEs, and to stimulate greater coordination between stakeholders and partner organisations to help businesses capitalise on new economic and public sector innovation opportunities. The network created is designed to complement other networks, including the new NMIS initiative, by providing local access to complementary support and services to ensure that SMEs, no matter where they are across Scotland, are fully positioned to capitalise on opportunities that are presented by this national resource, irrespective of the location. Those who are familiar with an ERDF-funded project will recognise that there's a common basket of performance indicators, one of which is the number of SMEs that attend events like this. But there's also the projects are measured by the number of collaborations between SMEs and research institutes and R&D projects. These might be established to achieve tech transfer or commercialization of knowledge or sharing of IP between two or more organizations, perhaps to bid for collaborative research funding, perhaps through these larger projects that we're seeing these days like Innovate UK or European frameworks, or to exploit market opportunities. So this metric's the reason that we, in our role as program manager, wanted to introduce the 12 projects to you, the Scottish universities. Although, as I've mentioned, we've it widened the scope to involve Scottish SMEs as well. So hopefully there'll be something that you'll pick up from this if you're an SME to understand how you can engage with one of these projects. I think what we've got today is, although we haven't got every single project here, we do have a broad representation of the range of support that's available to Scottish SMEs and the resources and facilities that universities, and in particular their spin-outs, might want to look at when considering research grant funding and R&D. Another of the metrics that the projects are measured by is increasing research expenditure on R&D, which is the Scottish Government defines as the total amount of project-related expenditure incurred by SMEs and other organisations on research and development projects that have been assisted by AMCF projects. So this is an important objective and a primary motivator for SEED to introduce the 7 projects that are here to the university sector today. Next slide, please, Jane. SEED's created a very nice website that you can find by going to www.advancingmanufacturing.co.uk, which lists all of the projects that form the Advancing Manufacturing Cluster Initiative. So if you've not been there yet, I encourage you to go and take a look and look at some of the examples of the work that's been done. Next one, please, Jane. We'll skip that slide, I think, please. I think that's almost a redundancy from what I've said before. This is just listing the 12 projects that exist. So, as I said, there are 7 projects that we're going to hear about today, and I've tried to list them in some logical sequence, although we have put this project, the Aerospace Digital Visualization Suite, up front, slightly out of place in the original planning, and we're going to introduce you to Kenneth McRae, who's going to tell you something about the project. I think given the nature of the disparate nature of the different projects, we could take questions straight after each project presentation, and as I said, I think it might be an opportunity to have a break, perhaps around 11 o'clock for 5 minutes or so, given that there's quite a lot of talking going on here. But please do introduce yourselves in the chat box. Tell us who you are and why you're here. And when you have heard from the speakers, don't be shy to come forward with questions and put those in the chat box too. So Kenneth, over to you. I'm quiet now, and Jane and Kenneth, I'll pass to you.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Thanks very much for the time to explain our project and what we're doing. So in this first slide, you can see the team. There's Brian, our specialist, application specialist, myself that's doing all of the programming side, getting the fun of getting stuck into the projects, and Alison, who is our link with the council. So I'm just going to take you through a few of the things that we can do and what we do for SMEs. It's free advice, and we're aiming to embed visualization techniques and allow them to upskill their workforce and their abilities to become more profitable. So it's basically on visualization, and we've got a few examples here of visualization of design challenges. So this is a hangar down at Prestwick Airport that we've used Google Earth data and CAD drawings to visualize the hangar. This is particularly interesting for parking and maneuvering of planes, and we're taking this project on to do a simulation of a pushback, looking at training and visualization of how planes can be stacked and moved around an airport. That video doesn't appear to be running, but oh no, wait a minute, I do have control. So this is just showing the visualization created from Google Earth data and a plane parked inside the building. This is also photogrammetry we use, so we have a range of different techniques and abilities to use. This is photogrammetry taken from a drone, so it can very quickly create data when we don't have CAD and other types of assets to go from.
If the video is not working, Kenneth, we'll make sure that when
well, the video's working for me, so hopefully everyone else can see it.
Yes, I think it worked. I could certainly see it working.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
that's good. That's good. I'll move on a slide then. If I can find how to move on a slide. So other things we can do is remote assistance and technical instructions. This particular example came out of collaboration with Strathclyde University, where we're trying out different techniques, different hardware for delivering instructions. So this is an example that we now have at the suite down in Ayrshire. So we can demonstrate how technical instructions can be delivered through different hardware, different mediums. It's a fairly simple Lego assembly example, but obviously the technology and software used within this example can be scaled up to industry. So that can be of interest. We'll move on again. So I've talked a bit about digital asset creation as well. A lot of people see this as a big barrier to doing visualizations, simulations, and other visualization techniques, but we have developed a range of different pipelines for getting to your digital assets. This includes via CAD packages, through other modeling, and as I've already showed, we've got photogrammetry, LiDAR scanning. So there's a range of different options, and what we are trying to do is show that to SMEs so that they can see what's available, what's possible, and with our suite they can even try out and do proof of concept before investing. Moving on again. So digital factory transformation is one of the larger scale projects that we've been getting involved in terms of size of the visualization. With this, we can look at factory layouts. So this video is of Unit 2B at Prestwick Airport, where Skype training is. So within this, we can look at modelling up in 3 dimensions, areas with machines, with other facilities and applications, particular use of forklifts, shelving. Yes, it can be done in 2D CAD, but trying to see how forklifts will move around and how you can manoeuvre, it's a 3D problem. It normally requires a 3D solution to work properly. So that is a model of WB Alloys, where we did a study on forklift movements within shelves. See if we can move on again to the next slide. Skipping slides again. So a lot of what VR has been used for is training and awareness. It's one of the easiest low-hanging fruits to get involved in. This is an example from McCulloch Rail. This is a real machine that's used that they were looking at doing training. It's a large cost for them as they've got to move machines around, they've got to move personnel to where the machine's being used for training. So this was a VR package that we created in, I think it was about a day and a half total, using CAD data of the machine, using some of the knowledge and physical attributes of the machine, so that we could create a 3D environment where it will respond and control very accurately to how the real machine does. So it's using a full physics engine with properly timed, manoeuvred hydraulics on it. You can see sitting there the controller in front, which is a replica of the real controller. But we are also now looking at moving this project forward into AR terms. So you can use a real physical controller to drive the virtual world. So these are just a few examples of the training. So as I say, the main point of what we're there to do is to advise SMEs and give them some signposting. So we've got a lot of experience in the aerospace industry. We have Brian that worked with Rolls-Royce. I myself worked in a steelworks for several years, and we've both been heavily involved in updating computer systems, visualization, and working in that interesting space between mechanical and computing. years of web development management, VR, mixed reality, and we have a full suite there that we can show to SMEs, not only examples of what can be done, but we can work with them to do proof of concept and to develop issues or problems that they have to show them a signpost effectively to a solution. So as with all groups in Seed, we're working quite closely with several universities and R&D research places. I myself came from Strathclyde University, so we have strong links there for pushing forward the research and development side. Quickly, as a little bit short in time here. So as a summary of what we do, as I've been saying all the way through, we're aiming to embed skills in industry. We're not here to be outside experts and take money. It's a free service as funded by the council. And our aim is to embed the skills in industry to let them move forward and control their own destiny. And also a very fundamental point is to deliver a return of interest for them. So with the technology we have, it's not particularly expensive, but there is obviously an investment cost. But our aim is to show them how that will give a return on investment and improve the competitiveness. So a couple of links at the bottom for our website and our LinkedIn page. If anyone wants to get in contact with us, you either catch me in the chat or visit us through the website or LinkedIn. And thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Kenneth. No questions so far for you in the chat box at the moment. Quick one from me. If you're an SME on this call or a university on this call, how do you envisage the project working with manufacturing SMEs and academics interested in manufacturing in Scotland and out with aerospace? In what areas?
So yeah, I think there's almost sort of 3 questions in there. So yes, we are targeting aerospace directly as our main focus. However, we can work with any SME within Scotland. So it does spread out slightly, even though we are focusing on aerospace. I think academic-wise and industry-wise, although it's very similar, there's a slightly different kind of approach to this one. So very much within education, we have the suite down there. We can do a lot of demonstration of what we're doing with different projects within industry. We have HoloLenses, we've got VR, we've got different ranges of VR. So the suite down there we can use to show what we're doing within industry and what links we have to industry. With SMEs as well, again, we do have that suite. We can do a lot of demonstration of what is possible of the technology and other solutions. But the main attraction, I think, that really sets aside is we can put time and effort into developing a proof of concept. So, for example, with that McCulloch rail, that wasn't a problem that we foresaw. That was McCulloch rail says, we have this machine that we want to do training on. How would it work? We can then build a proof of concept simulation there and deliver that to them as a, here's a signpost of where the technology can take you and what can be done with it. So we can give them that software, that knowledge of how the pipeline works, and give them a bit of signposting to larger scale where you can get the equipment, where other companies can help as well at times, or as I say, embed the technology into the company themselves, keep it all in-house. So that just gives them a bit of a kind of a try before you buy. As I say, it's free service for SMEs funded by South Ayrshire Council.
Thanks, Kenneth. So if you're a university and you want to engage some fairly advanced visualization techniques as part of your project, you'd welcome an approach from universities for that. Thanks. So a couple of things coming in the chat box. Some people introducing themselves, and then others saying, this is Stuart telling us about his work at Scottish Enterprise, and Greg is saying that's great, we should get in touch. If there are no more questions at this point, we can always come back if you think of them for Kenneth. I'd like to move on to introduce Robin from who's the Business Development Manager for the Medical Device Manufacturing Centre at Heriot-Watt University. Just a quick comment from me. My screen isn't really syncing to the presentation. If anybody else is struggling with this, can you let us know that now, and maybe we can take a look at if that's the case. I certainly didn't sync with every single one of the slides that that Kenneth was working on.
Patrick,
Otherwise,
can I just add, there is this sort of thing below the presentation. There are the 3 dots with more actions, and one of those you can click on to give live to presenter, I think is the option.
well, Jane is running the presentations at the moment. It's
yeah. So if you click live, effectively it renews in real time, I think, or as close to real time as the archaic internet allows.
okay.
Thanks, Ian.
Oh, Jane, are we okay?
Yep, we're fine. Yep, ready to go with Robin if you want to go. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Patrick, shall I make a start?
Yes, please, Robin. Thank you.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. My name is Robin Shields. As Patrick's kindly introduced, I'm the Business Development Executive for the MDMC, the Medical Device Manufacturing Centre. Can I just please ask everyone, if in case of interruptions to my audio, please flag to me, at which point I can switch my camera off, reflecting broadband challenges in a home-based office here. But thank you very much to the SEED team for organising, giving us all the opportunity to present our projects this morning. I'm keen on behalf of MDMC to follow up with any university or business participants individually afterwards, and I'll put my contact details in the chat after I've spoken. So next slide, please, Jane. So really attempting to capture MDMC in a single slide. Who we are a partnership of 4 universities, hosted by Heriot Watt University, but also including universities of Edinburgh, Glasgow and Robert Gordon University. Like every other project delivering this morning, we're jointly funded by European Regional Development Fund with thanks to Scottish Enterprise. Who are we targeting with MDMC? Well, medical device developers and manufacturers and anyone in the associated supply chain. It's quite possible also through this morning that once I've explained our facilities and resources, businesses from other sectors may also express interest, in which case we'll be happy to have that conversation as well. So we offer, as shown bottom left, access to facilities, which I'll explain in a bit more detail, engineering expertise, and advice around the complex pathways to gaining approval for medical devices. So we support medical device innovation from concept to commercialization and help businesses to translate medical device concepts through to small batch prototypes. You can see a little infographic on the bottom right. This was accurate to about end of August, September of this year, midpoint for our project. You can see some metrics in terms of the amount of money invested in equipment, the numbers of SMEs engagements, and direct assistances and our online knowledge transfer program. So next slide, please, Jim. So our basics are, I imagine, along with most of the other AMCF projects, we're funded under the current arrangements to 31st of December next year. So that's just about 1 year, and we're looking to our exit strategy and follow-on development beyond then. Total order of magnitude is £3.2 million, £2 million of which is capital investment in facilities. So as with our sister projects, our KPIs all relate to supporting Scottish SMEs, for whom our core services are provided free of charge up to a certain cap. But we can also importantly collaborate with universities in a costed fashion through a small research facility basis that those of you from universities will be familiar with, and happy to have those conversations. Next slide, please. Thank you. Just a little schematic of our structure. If we look at the middle of this slide, bounded by a rectangle, you can see our facility, which is staffed by technologists who are technology specialists, we refer to them, they're engineers. My own role on business development, and we have a management team sitting around us, which which is includes representatives from all 4 universities, and each of those universities then contribute academic expertise. Importantly, at the top of the slide, you'll see that we have a multidisciplinary external advisory group spanning the breadth of the types of stakeholders who you might expect to be involved in medical device development and management and manufacturing. And as shown on the right, everything's leading towards supporting medical device SMEs or businesses who can contribute to that sector. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit small. Please don't worry, all of the information is available online. It's just to really provide a short visual of our team. You can see our core Heriot Watt-based team on the left-hand side. I won't read all of the individual names. You may know some of them. From the point of view of direct assistance with manufacturing, it's the bottom row. That's the important. Those are our technology specialists, and we've just actually appointed two further technology specialists who'll be starting with us shortly. Wojciech, who's shown bottom right, is actually moving across to industry. So it sounds like we require 2 people to replace the one role. It's not quite that simple, but we're very pleased to be appointing new staff. And our academic team on the right from across all 4 universities. Next slide, please. So the nuts and bolts of the hardware are located in 2 labs, specially refurbished at Heriot Watt University Edinburgh campus. A comprehensive suite of manufacturing equipment. Happy to arrange personalised visits to the labs in this current era when COVID restrictions do allow us to do that. So please get in touch if that's of interest. And the next slide, please, shows an outline listing of the equipment that we have. You can see 7 categories of manufacturing equipment. More details are available on our website. Can also provide links to recordings, etc., for participants this morning if you're interested. So extensive laser-based manufacturing equipment, an array of additive manufacturing, spray jetting, inkjet printing, and 3D printing, along with extensive subtractive manufacturing equipment in the form of machining, 3 different categories of machining. We have got injection molding and vacuum forming. We also have, importantly, in terms of, let's say, assessing prototypes or testing of longevity of devices, we have characterization and analytical equipment and environmental testing equipment. We've invested substantially in medical device packaging equipment. Next slide, please. Just a few case studies to give you a flavour of the type of work that we've been doing on behalf of businesses. This is an example of a collaborative initiative last year with Scottish Manufacturing Advisory Service on behalf of the business, or with the business Abergour Limited, who had diversified out into medical devices. So we assisted that company to obtain CE certification for 3D printed COVID-19 testing swabs. We produced initial batches of the swabs in our facilities at MDMC, and we prepared a report with SMAS on scale-up of production to meet NHS demands. So that's a combination of advice plus direct manufacturing support. Next slide, please. This is actually a Heriot Watt University spin-out company, IntelliPulp Diagnostics, which is a digitized, forgive the pun, prostate examination device where we have been manufacturing components for prototypes that are being incorporated into clinical trials currently. So you can see that we've been laser cutting components and 3D printing molds as well. Next slide, please. MR Coiltech is a University of Glasgow spin-out company that manufactures RF coils for ultra-high field MRI. In this case, we've been both manufacturing acrylic mirrors and support device for Phantom for the MRI. that part's not listed in the slide. That's currently taking place. Next slide, please. This is an example of not a regulated medical device, but more a physiotherapy or training device. This is a micro enterprise where the inventor came to us with a very early prototype, having done some previous collaboration work. So we didn't actually engage in manufacturing in this case, but we helped the business to create CAD representation of the prototype and introduced to injection molding specialists. I'm very pleased to say that the company has gone on to produce professionally injection molded prototypes and will shortly be launching a crowdfunding program for the device. Next slide, please. So alongside of direct manufacturing support and technical advice, we have, like all of our sister projects, been online on our knowledge transfer activities. You can see quite an extensive program of topics been developing over the past year, most recently on NHS health technology assessment. If anyone is interested in presentations or recordings from these individual webinars, do let me know and I'll be happy to share. We are slowly but surely in the process of getting this material uploaded onto the MDMC website. Next slide, please. We're almost there. Alongside what are typically 1 to 1.5 hour webinars with support from NMIS and the National Transition Training Fund, we're very pleased to have been able to run two rounds now of this 4-day CPD program for businesses, and we've had universities participating as well, actually, on medical device regulatory affairs and a whole bunch of expert contributors in and around how healthcare technology is managed and adopted within the NHS. So Jane, with thanks, I think that would be my next slide, is just a thank you slide. Thank you for the opportunity and happy to answer any, oh, sorry, one more. Yes, we've actually just closed last Friday our first call for proposals on Medical Device Regulations Advisory Service, which is a new free service on offer to Scottish SMEs. So very well subscribed. We're just sifting through the first batch of applications now, and we'll be doing a further call for proposals probably next spring. So if it's of interest, please get in touch about that one. I believe, Jane, that is now leading on to my Q slide. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Robbie, for another really informative presentation. I'm going to be cheeky and ask a couple of questions, but still encouraging of the audience to talk to you about how they might engage. So my first question is about engagement. We know that MDMC is charged with supporting SMEs who are registered in Scotland, and you might want to tell me if I've misinterpreted that, but it occurs to me that if I'm a young entrepreneur or an older entrepreneur and I'm looking at medical device, medical device development, at what stage is it most appropriate for an entrepreneur or a company to come to MDMC and ask for guidance and advice?
Thanks, Patrick. Really good question. I'll try to keep my answer brief in the interest of time, but many of our clients currently are relatively early stage companies. So to be clear, we don't undertake design of medical devices. We liaise with the established medical device design consultancies that already operate in Scotland. So a good point of engagement on physical manufacturing would be once CADs are available, for example, from a prototype that may have been developed within the SME itself or in liaison with a design consultancy. But because we also offer this advisory service in and around regulatory pathways, early stage concepts, we can engage with those businesses as well, because what can be relatively short conversations can help those businesses to choose the correct path, Patrick. I hope that helps. But we also then work with well-established companies who might say, a very clear idea what they need to say. Please do this for us. How much time will it take, and etc. So mainly early stage though.
Thanks, Robin. I did put another question in, but there's a comment from Grant. I don't know, Grant, if I didn't follow what you were suggesting in the chat box. If you wanted to unmute and contribute to the conversation, then we'd welcome that, I think.
Yeah, no problem. You'd asked about kind of gaps, perhaps, and just running through the technologies that they have at the MDMC. There's one that ENMIS has that perhaps they don't, which is the metal powder bed fusion. This is a technology you typically use for the likes of acetabular cups, femoral stems, maxillofacial applications, dental screws. And I've put a link to the particular equipment we have, but I was making people aware that we have an agreement with the MDMC that they'll lead on these style of projects, but you can still access the technology that we have at ENMIS because it falls under additive manufacturing, so it has synergy with the AMVATS project. But your first point of call is Robin and his team at the MDMC.
Thanks for that, Grant. I think it's
Grant,
really good.
thanks very much for that. Yeah, that's a really we've got a very informal but productive networking between our two projects. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example of the complementarity that I alluded to at the beginning with projects operating locally and nationally, supporting each other and complementing each other. There's and Robin, you've so far survived until that last few seconds with your internet capability. There's a question from Alison that's just popped in, and then I'll ask Joe if you wanted to comment. The question from Alison is, what number of projects do you hope to support over the current term to the end of next year? For Robin.
So Alison, I don't have the KPI in front of me, but thanks. It's an important question. So we are each of our projects, including MDMC, are checking off quarterly our progress and reporting to Scottish Enterprise. I will be happy to feed back the details of that to you one-to-one, Alison, if you want, because there are different classifications of types of engagement. But those one-to-ones, I don't have it in my head, but I'll certainly share, or I can put it in the chat. Thanks, Alison.
Thanks for that, Robin. And Joe, do you want to come in and
maybe just in closing, Patrick, if I could also comment that if it's
I personally have lost Robin. If that is the case for everybody, then it might be a good idea to move on to our next presentation from Brian McFerrin at Scout. Ian, I saw your picture come up. Is that you asking a question of Robin at this point?
No. I'm just going to say I've also lost Robin. So. Okay.
Well, let's thank Robin, and I'm sure he'll catch up with us as the presentation goes on. And again, if anybody wants to contact with him, please do use the chat box or write to Seed or Robin directly, and we'll put you in touch and we can follow up. So our next presentation is one I've written about in my personal LinkedIn, saying that when I was involved in biotechnology at universities, I wished it existed during my time, albeit that there are constraints on what the Scout project can offer. So without further ado from me, I'd like to introduce you now to Brian McFerrin, who's the project manager for the Scout project, and hear a little bit about what Scout can offer if you're a life science and biotechnology company in Scotland.
Thanks, Patrick. Good morning, everybody. Could you move on to the next slide, please, Jane? So as Patrick says, I'm going to tell you about the Scout project. The Scout project is a collaboration or a partnership between the three organisations, CPI, CMAC and IPILC. So I work for CPI, and this is an organisation that was established in the northeast of England. I should say that's the Centre for Process Innovation. So although it's based in the northeast of England, we're now expanding out into Scotland with the establishment of the Medicine Manufacturing Innovation Centre, which is soon to be completed in Renfrewshire. So the mission statement for CPI is to connect academia, business and funders and bring bright ideas and research into the marketplace. So within the Project Scout, we are collaborating with CMAC and iBioIC. These are two organisations which sit under the umbrella of Strathclyde University. So CMAC is a world-class international hub for manufacturing research and training, working in partnership with industry, transforming current manufacturing processes into the medicine supply chain of the future. And iBioIC has a remit to connect industry with academia and government to accelerate and de-risk commercialisation to bring new biotechnology processes and products to the global market. So hopefully what you can see across these three organisations is there's a really nice synergy, both in terms of the expertise that we have, but also in terms of our goals. Next slide, please. So within this, this wide partner network, we have expertise across a range of technologies, some of which are shown here. It's not the full range, but it's a subset which is relevant to our target audience. So this includes biotech and biotherapeutics, pharmaceutical development, processing and manufacturing, medtech and electronics, agritech, food and nutraceuticals, and finally specialty chemicals. So we use this expertise to support SMEs across Scotland, and we focus on the chemical, biochemical and life sciences sectors. So that's a little bit about what we are as a group, but what do we actually do within the Skype project? Next slide, please. So within the Skype project, we've got three offerings. What we refer to as innovation clinics, which is one-to-many support, and then two forms of one-to-one support, which we refer to as our innovation integrator and our deep technical consultancies. Next slide, please. So I'll take each of these in turn. So in terms of the innovation clinics, basically what we do within these is that we workshop common industry challenges. We encourage network development and expose SMEs to cutting edge thinking. We provide access to partner expertise, and it serves as an opportunity for SMEs to showcase their activity and their experiences. Next slide, please. So within at the start of the project, we anticipated that these would be face-to-face events. But of course, in the face of the pandemic, we've had to modify our approach, and these have tended to be webinar-style events, similar to the ones that that Robin mentioned in the previous presentation. So today we've had 4 webinars, 1 to 2 hour events, and looking forward to next year, we've got a series of events which are planned. We've got one around novel therapeutics and how there's been a great partnership between SMEs and Big Pharma. We're also looking to the themes which came out of COP26, so around sustainability. So we were very mindful of what came out of COP26 and how that might impact on SMEs. So we're going to have a series of events around obligation to net zero targets, reduction of methane emissions, and perhaps also green finance. And finally, there's another event that we're planning alongside MDMC, focused entirely on finance for SMEs. And later on in the year, we do hope to supplement this with face-to-face full-day events late spring into the summer. So that's our events programme. So moving on to the first of our one-to-one support. This is the innovation integrator model. So it's a 12-point business consultancy tool. And with the support of the wider network, the Scout team assesses the strengths and weaknesses of an SME in relation to the 12 factors that you can see here. So it could be money, intellectual property, people, supply chain, and so on. And we consider these 12 factors in the SME journey from invention to innovation to commercialisation. So 3 different steps in the process. And then we play that information back to the SME, highlighting their strengths and where they need to focus in the future. So we provide a final report, providing recommendations and signposting that will help the SME achieve that goal of commercialisation of their product. Next slide, please. And the second of our one-to-one offerings is a desk-based consultancy project. So we refer to this as a deep technical consultancy. So here we'll target a specific technology or process to overcome innovation and commercialization challenges. These consultancies provide access for the SME to the Scout partner network. They can gain significant insight and expertise in a range of topics. It could be a technical topic, it could be funding, it could be marketing, it could be supply chain and so on. And again, we produce a final report, this time with technical insights as well as the recommendations and signposting, again, to help that journey from invention to innovation to commercialization. Last slide, please. So hopefully that's given you a very brief introduction as to what the Skype project's about. If you want to learn more, you can visit our website, you can visit our YouTube channel where you'll see some testimonials from some of the SMEs that we've worked with. And finally, there's my email address. If you want to get in touch, I'll be absolutely delighted to hear from you. And thank you for your attention.
Thanks very much, Brian. It took me by surprise. That really was a whistle-stop spin through of the Scout project. Again, another question from me is almost the same as the one I asked Robin. So if I'm a university and I'm responsible for supporting SME startup and spin out, what support could Scout CPI, I/C, for example, give to that early stage company? Should they knock on your door and ask the question, given they may be pre-incorporated at that point?
I think it's a wide range, and hopefully what's come across in the presentation is that we can be very flexible, and we do have a very broad network that we can draw upon within the Scout project. So as I touched upon, it could be support with a view to achieving funding, which is obviously very important for a very early stage company. It could be a particular technology challenge. It could be market need. It really, we're very flexible, Patrick, and we can take it in a number of different directions.
Thanks, Brian. Can I encourage the audience to come in and ask questions of the three speakers we've had so far? It seems to be very clear in the sense of what we've all heard at the moment. Is there anything absolutely pressing on anybody to the questions that they'd like to ask? If that's the case and there's nothing immediate, then I'd like to thank Brian for his contribution this morning, and move on to our next speaker, after which I wonder whether we should take that aforesaid comfort break. The next presentation is from Ian Hill, who is responsible for the Eden Campus Energy Demonstrator at St Andrews University. Many of you may know and have followed the developments over the last 5 to 10 years. I look forward to hearing from Ian to tell us what's happening and what we can expect over the next few years. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Patrick. Yes, I'll give you a fairly rapid trot through what's going on at Eden Campus. In terms of the Advanced Manufacturing Challenge Fund project, what we have is a specific project nested within a wider development. So in the presentation, I'll talk a little bit about the wider development of Eden Campus, and I'll also talk about what we're delivering specifically with the Advanced Manufacturing Challenge Fund. And one kind of sits within the other as far as the external world is concerned. If we could move on, please, Jane. Just very briefly to say that if anybody's not familiar with this, Eden Campus is a former industrial site which the university bought 10 years ago. It's an old paper mill which is about 4 miles from the town of St Andrews. And the next slide, please, Jane, just shows that what we've done initially is undertaken a fairly major demolition program to try and reduce the site back to some core buildings, which we're now developing as a combination of services for the university itself and also R&D facilities for our work with external companies, which is where the AMCF grant comes in. So on the next slide, what we show is that idea is that what we want to be able to do is to add value to the process of commercialization by bringing our academic expertise to bear where companies are involved in product development. And the next slide zooms in on how we're intending to do that across the campus as a whole. So this is the current plan of development for the campus. Some of this is already in place. Some of this is under construction at the moment. Some of it is a few years off, particularly that purple coloured north cluster, which we don't have the capacity to deal with at the moment. But what we're developing is a low carbon innovation hub, which concentrates on low carbon technologies with external companies, but also showcases low carbon operation as a campus which is powered predominantly by biomass heating and solar PV, which will allow us to showcase some innovative technologies on site, particularly things like new forms of battery storage, which connect to the AMCF project. So the next slide shows the areas of technical expertise where the university has something to offer external companies in terms of knowledge transfer experience. And at Eden Campus, we're particularly concentrating on three of those areas: materials chemistry and the development of batteries and energy storage, fuel cells and hydrogen technologies, and also work around what's known as power to X, the conversion of renewable electricity into green hydrogen and then into a range of other sustainable chemicals via catalysis processes. Now, of those three broad areas, two of them are particularly attracting support from European Regional Development Fund money. And just to give a little bit of context to this, the university also has a project running through the Low Carbon Challenge Fund, which is a kind of sister program to the Advanced Manufacturing Challenge Fund. So our work in the Low Carbon Challenge Fund tends to concentrate on fuel cells and companies operating within the hydrogen economy. Our work within the Advanced Manufacturing Challenge Fund tends to concentrate on companies working in the materials chemistry space, particularly for those involved in energy storage and energy technologies. So if we move on into the next slide, please, to say a little bit about how this manifests in practice. We are currently undergoing construction and redevelopment work on two buildings at Eden Campus, which will house a range of equipment. The buildings themselves, the work on the buildings themselves is financed through the Tay Cities Deal programme, which the university is running a major project through, based around Eden Campus. But within the innovation hub that we're developing at the moment, that blue slice in the middle is a suite which is going to be dedicated to our work around fuel cells development and manufacturing. That particularly pertains to our Low Carbon Challenge Fund project. On the right of this slide is a little box outlined in red saying it's the site of a forthcoming battery development centre, and that's now in construction. And the next slide shows what that battery development centre will look like. Jane, if you just pop on to the next slide, please. Thank you. Oh dear, and the text has done something awry there. Don't worry about the text on the left-hand side. What we are creating in this building is a specialised facility which will allow the handling and development of complex materials which are used for things like batteries, fuel cells, electrolyzers, and a range of energy storage technologies. The core of the facility is a dry room, which is effectively a hermetically sealed room with exceptionally low humidity levels, moisture levels, which allow you to handle those sensitive chemistries without them spoiling. It's quite a unique facility. The nearest publicly available facility of this kind at the moment is with the Warwick Manufacturing Group near Coventry. So it'll be the first facility of its kind in Scotland and really helps the cluster of energy storage companies that's starting to develop, particularly in the kind of Edinburgh to Dundee axis. So there's quite a lot of energy storage companies based around this part of Scotland, and that's been helped by the development of the MSIP facility in Dundee, and we work very closely with MSIP in terms of sharing know-how around companies. So this is currently in development, and the equipment inside the facility specifically for the development of battery chemistries is what is funded by the AMCF project, along with some of the staffing support to work alongside companies. Now, I've mentioned that this is currently in development. To date, what we've been doing with the AMCF project is delivering support within core university buildings. So we are already working with a range of companies in the battery development space, and we're doing that through existing facilities within the School of Chemistry. But this will allow us to do things at a larger scale. So it's particularly a scale-up facility. If you just move on to the next slide, please, Jane. So we're particularly working with external companies, and the bottom half of this slide I think is the interesting thing, which is how do companies come to us? We do have a range of existing academic and industry relationships. So we've got some quite well-established relationships with a wide range of companies working in this kind of energy storage space. But we are also doing quite a lot of proactive engagement. And one of the things that we funded through the Advanced Manufacturing Challenge Fund is the creation of an industry club, which allows us to run a series of virtual webinars to keep up that engagement, particularly during the last couple of years of the pandemic. We are also using other avenues, so expressions of interest through some of the existing things like Interface, the Net Zero Technology Centres programme, Knowledge Transfer Network, the Energy Technology Partnership. All of those are ways in which we engage with companies, but also we are getting companies approaching us directly or via seed in some cases, because they know that we're particularly strong in this kind of materials chemistry space. The final slide in the presentation, the next and final slide, is just to say a little bit about this industry club, because it's open to anyone, and we have a registration page on Eventbrite where you will receive mailings. We've been running monthly webinars, and we tend to run them as a 1 to 1.5 hours lunchtime slot in the middle of the week. And we currently have about 120 people signed up for the industry club. We typically get somewhere between 30 and 50 attendees at any individual session. And what we've been doing with Industry Club is running either presentations from individual companies to showcase some of the work they're involved in, or we've been running presentations from academics to look at some of the knowledge transfer opportunities within the university, and also sometimes running policy sessions. So our next Industry Club session, which is on Friday of next week, Friday the 17th, is particularly looking at the government's hydrogen policy, because Scottish Government have recently launched their Hydrogen Action Plan, which will create some quite substantial opportunities for companies and for academic industry partnerships as well. So do feel free to sign up for the Industry Club. It's open to all, and it's a way of getting into some of the activities that are being funded through the AMCF programme. Right, that I think is all I need to say, Patrick, but you did post a question.
I did, thank you very much, Ian. I was trying to be slightly controversial without being controversial.
With other low carbon initiatives such as the Hydrogen Accelerator was your first question. The Hydrogen Accelerator is also funded, is also led by the University of St Andrews, and it's a joint initiative with Strathclyde. It is funded by Transport Scotland, and it supports development of hydrogen projects around Scotland. The Hydrogen Accelerator work particularly, the team running the Hydrogen Accelerator are running our LCCF project, our sister project from the Low Carbon Challenge Fund. But the Industry Club is a joint initiative between the Hydrogen Accelerator and the AMCF programme. So the two things are aligned. I mentioned earlier in that slide that we have got this kind of technology separation where Hydrogen Accelerator tends to, and LCCF project tend to concentrate on companies working in the hydrogen space, whereas with AMCF we tend to be working on companies within energy storage and batteries. So we have that broad distinction, and in output terms, it means that we can assign companies that we work with to one project or to another without any duplication of outputs.
Well, thank you for that, Ian.
Your next question then was, where do we see hydrogen in the current energy mix, and what developments do we see as necessary if we're to adopt hydrogen as a significant vector? I mentioned just after you posted that question, the Hydrogen Action Plan that's just been launched by Scottish Government and is currently open for consultation. And part of our session next week is to gather some thoughts from external partners about what we might respond to that consultation. I think it recognises that hydrogen can be the basis of a fairly substantial alternative energy system. And if you've got a lot of renewable electricity, as Scotland has and will have increasingly have, then there is the opportunity to convert at least some of that into green hydrogen. One of the barriers to that transition towards green hydrogen is actually the capacity to make green hydrogen. So companies working in the electrolyzer space, for example, some of whom we're working with through some of our projects, are key to being able to make green hydrogen at low cost, at a cost that compares with the currently available version of hydrogen.
Well, thank you, Ian, for that clarification. I'm following the chat box where Brian has responded to a question on at what stage companies might want to approach the project, by suggesting that if anyone wants to explore the point further than what Scout can offer, given his email address, and he'd be happy to follow up with you. At this point, as there are no more questions coming through, I did promise, and thank you, Ian, for your excellent presentation again, I did promise a 5-minute, well, I didn't say how long, but a comfort break. So I do run the risk that when we come back, there'll be nobody here apart from the 3 remaining speakers, which are the Smart Hub Lanarkshire and Caroline Brown, Advancing Manufacturing in the West Highlands with Margaret, and a presentation from NMIS. But at this point, if we could all adjourn and perhaps come back at 10 minutes past 11 for that short comfort break, some of you might well appreciate the chance to make a cup of tea, and we'll see you in a few moments. Thanks for that.
No cup of tea for you, Patrick.
It's more a case of making sure that the dog didn't go crazy for me. So it's been completely selfish, but 2 hours is a lot of talking. We're a very polite audience, or very quiet audience.
Stir them up. Get them to come in and shout. I think the point I was raising with Robin and Grant about that kind of reshoring and change of product mix, and sometimes the kind of testing that we've seen from some of the startups. So I think, you know, the projects are certainly, I think, in my opinion, well aligned to do that. You know, think of some of the projects that you and I have been exchanging emails on. So I don't know if we've got people in the audience that have that. You know, I've got a rubber widget and I need to change it to another type of rubber widget, but it needs to meet manufacturing kind of cost criteria, but also meet the medical device reg, etc. So
I was looking at the participants, and I don't know if everybody can still hear me. I've got their headphones on or whatever, or really have gone off to make cups of teas and things. Karen Allen, are you there? No. What I was hoping to do is actually try to get people to comment about what they were hoping to get out of this event and whether it's worked so far for them. Bob Andrew, are you there? No. They really have gone off. Everybody really has gone off. Who else is on the call that we didn't really recognise at the moment?
Oh, someone's about to come on, Patrick.
Oh, who's that?
Bob's here.
What's that, Bob?
Here. Hi. I was too slow and
No, that's good. So it's good to hear from you. It is a very quiet audience. We normally get quite a lot of activity in the chat box. There is a lot of talking at. How are you finding it so far?
It's very interesting. I work for Elevator, so I run programs. I actually been working with MSIP for the last year or so. So we're always looking for new resources or avenues that we use with the companies that come through our Accelerator programs. So there's some great insights here actually this morning. So plus we're looking at new program development as well, where we might be able to tie into some of the some of these initiatives. But yeah, it's really good, and it's nice to be another. I've been quiet, but I've been on the other side of the camera for a change. Normally, I'm sitting here trying to get audiences to participate. So I feel
yeah.
So send a message out. Well, we're meeting with some of your guys later this afternoon. So.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Who's that? Who are you with? Is it?
So I only really work these things out an hour before I need to remember the names. That's a factor of age now, but I will tell you in 2 seconds. Bear with me.
Bob, Robin here. Sorry, while Joe's doing that, nice to see you. And MDMC is already working with some business, or with at least one business that's participating in the Elevator program. So good to be connected.
Yes, likewise.
It's and who speaks very highly of that program, by the way.
Who's that? Which one was that?
Let me get it right. I'll have to check on file. Let me just check.
No, it's always good because to get feedback, because we get quite a diverse number of companies come through our various programs.
CVAC.
Oh yes.
Louise.
Yeah.
Anybody else in the audience feels brave enough to come forward? The question I was asking really was, how's the event been for you so far? Is there anything that you'd like us to bring out of the remaining speakers? More engineering than perhaps medical or biochemistry or biotech, and certainly energy than we've had before is next up line with Smart Hub and AMWH. And the generic presentation, I think we'll hear from Goga for NMIS. So if anybody has anything they want to comment at this point, we should almost be back now. You'd like to think that we're going to invite Caroline to talk to an audience that's actually on the end of the headphones at the moment. But it is 10 past 11 now. Hopefully kettle's all boiled, coffee made, comfort breaks had, dogs given juicy bones. Anybody else know the remaining lines of that poem for me? That would be very helpful. Caroline is now in the hot seat. So at this point, I'd like to thank Caroline for taking time out to talk to us about Smart Hub. Certainly an impressive opportunities to go and see the hub over the next few weeks, and seem to be very popular. And I'm sure that you'll tell us more about this over the next few moments. So Caroline, thanks very much.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks very much also, Seed, for inviting us along today. It's really good to hear about the other projects and the cluster building meetings and activities I found really worthwhile. So just worth mentioning that for keeping up to date with the wider group and progress and what's happening. So thanks for that. So today, my name's Caroline Brown. As Patrick said, I'm the project lead for delivery of the Smart Hub Lanarkshire project. And that's what I'm going to just give you a very sort of brief overview of today, the work that's been undertaken so far and our plans going forward. So if you move to the next slide, Jane. So our project is 3 partners that are involved in the smart delivery of Smart Hub Lanarkshire. So we've got North Lanarkshire Council, who I work for. We've got New College Lanarkshire, where the Smart Hub Lanarkshire asset is based in the Motherwell campus. And we've also got University of Strathclyde, who are our third partner. If you move on. The 3 of us came together to form this project because, obviously prompted by the Advancing Manufacturing Challenge Fund, but we were kind of all looking at the manufacturing sector at that time to say, what can we be doing, you know, to support and work with the sector to help advance manufacturing SMEs in the area of automation and Industry 4. So the timing was really good. So the college were already looking at what their kind of equipment assets were on the site. We were looking as a council at our key sectors and how we work with the sectors. And obviously with the advancement of the National Manufacturing Institute, Strathclyde seemed a good partner and an obvious partner to be working with to create our sort of vision for Smart Hub Lanarkshire. And what that's given us essentially in the asset over at Motherwell is we've got a really good robotics demonstration facility, which features collaborative robot technology. We've got hub space that we've managed to create, which is what we refer to our go-to space for manufacturing SMEs to come together for events, to meet partner agencies, to learn essentially, and also to use that space because there's no cost for it and it's free, to get off-site from their company premises if they want to use it for training, if they want to use it to get project teams away somewhere quiet to work as a group, and for whatever basically they would want to make that space useful to them for. And that's something now that it's open, we're really keen to maximise, and we've had good interest from SMEs when they've been in the space and seen it and had a think about that. The third dimension to our project comes through University of Strathclyde, and that's us having access to an NMIS SME engagement advisor who is going to be based at the hub 1 day per week going forward, probably next year is how that will run. So that's the plan for that. Next slide, please, Jane. So this gives you a little bit of an insight inside the actual hub demo space. So we've got 2 spaces, one in the tower, which is the go-to meeting space, and this is the actual hub space where the demonstrations happen and where the kind of action really happens. In that space, we've got a range of equipment. The cobots are obviously the kind of star of the show, and we've got 3 of them, 2 freestanding, as you can see at the top of the picture. One right, as I'm looking at it, is a cobot that's integrated into an Industry 4 mini smart factory system. And you can see also the other equipment that we have in the form of modular learning system and pneumatics workstation with associated software in there as well. Next slide, please. As I said, this is the second part of the space, top floor of the tower that you can see in the picture. We have the whole of the top floor. That space was adapted from student accommodation, believe it or not, into us having the full use of that for the meeting space. And that's a really nice, bright space that we can certainly make good use of as part of the hub. Next slide, please. So a couple of slides now, just to kind of come to the end of the presentation, but just on the numbers. So just to explain, our project really started on the 1st of April this year. We did suffer as a result of COVID impacts. Obviously, our investment here was a physical asset on a college campus, which, as you can imagine, with some of the impacts of COVID around access to that campus, and construction works for the refurbishment and the procurement process also for purchasing equipment were kind of big hits for us and really kind of held us back from getting going with this project that we really wanted to get launched and up and underway. So we launched the project digitally, which probably at that time wasn't our ideal scenario for conveying the sort of substance of the project. But to be fair, we gave it a go, and actually the results were really quite positive. So between the April and September period of this year, we focused on digital webinar-based delivery, which gave us a really good uptake of about 350 registrations across the sessions, and in the region of about 246 attendees at those events, which was really promising. Now, those events were made up of a whole range of people from all over the country, from businesses to colleges to councils to enterprise agencies to all sorts, which is really positive from our point of view that there's the interest and obviously the potential for referrals and word of mouth recommendation there. So that proved really worthwhile. Some of those events we took a sector-focused approach within manufacturing, so we were running sessions on an introduction to cobots for life science businesses, introduction to cobots for food and drink manufacturing companies, and also for engineering fabrication companies. So really trying to kind of tap into interest within specific sectors as to the application of cobots, and that worked well. We got the space physically open on the 27th of October, which was a huge milestone and a landmark. Everyone was itching to get that space open and get people through the doors and actually seeing the equipment. So that was really good. And since then, we've been really busy with a 6-week intense programme of demonstrations and tours of the hub space, going back to that original 350 interested parties that registered and going back to them to offer them the chance to now come in to that space and actually experience a demonstration and get a tour around to see what the space is. And that's worked well. We've had really good steady uptake of interest in that, and that's running through to next week. Will be our final sessions. Also been working with partners to get them into the space as well. So Seed are coming in with 2 groups of businesses this Thursday to tour and have a demonstration. SMAs are in next week for a team visit. We've teamed up with Business Gateway National also to make the opportunity available to manufacturing SMEs as well to come in. And working with these partners, also at Scottish Engineering in it as well, working with partners is really good for the credibility of this centre, showing we're networked and getting really good quality referrals coming into the hub space, so that's worked well. So where that takes us to up to the end of the year is we're looking at over 100 engagements with small to medium-sized manufacturers, which is, you know, from where we started on the 30th of April, quite a big achievement, I think, and has set the scene well for next year. What we were looking from that kind of events and sort of funnel approach is to get the volume interest there, to then work through into one-to-one business support, giving us the projects, giving us the collaborations with academia, giving us the R&D, and obviously into the new product and service development. And that's what our real focus is for next year, to take you know, the sort of support, getting close on a one-to-one basis with these manufacturing SMEs to look at their areas of interest, whether it's automation and cobots, or whether it's other areas of R&D and new product development and innovation within the companies. And that's what we're going to be 100% focused on next year. Next slide, please. So lastly, a really interesting kind of offshoot project, sister project, if you like, I think that was referred to earlier, which is a good term, that's come out of the hub, is we were approached by Scottish Enterprise, by the Advancing Manufacturing team, to look at the possibility of a spin-off project running in parallel with Smart Hub Lanarkshire, which we have taken up the opportunity to participate in. So that involved an additional amount of grant funding of £50,000, which has enabled us to purchase cobot purely for trial purposes, for companies to have off-site and on their premises to use and try out for a 2-week period. And what we're seeing is companies coming through the webinars, coming onto site for a demo visit, whether it's part of a group on a one-to-one basis, which is an option. And then there's almost the question of, right, what next? So this trial opportunity is working really well to allow companies to then take part in a supported trial. So they have access to a cobot on their site and their premises for 2 weeks. They also have some technical consultancy from our cobot supplier to help them to set up the trial, explore the use of the cobot, to really get as close as possible to them being able to make an informed decision about whether it's for them, within their premises, and it can do the job that they want it to do. So that project started November and runs to the end of March next year. We've been set a target of 5 to 8 manufacturing companies to engage in the programme. We've got 5 committed and on board who will be running trials between now and the end of March. And that's really, been a good piece of work as well that's come as a result of Smart Hub Lanarkshire. I'm really pleased about that. Next slide, please. Just to say lastly, we are very open as a hub project. We're had the chance to meet actually some great people. We've got great, new connections that have come about as a result of the hub that could be interesting over the next year. So we're willing to collaborate ourselves. We're open to working with partners. We're really open to businesses coming in and having a try, getting hands-on with equipment. And if anyone wants to reach out, more than happy to have a conversation. We're happy along to the hub to see it for real. And that brings me to the end. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Caroline. Oh my goodness, a bit of feedback there. Yeah, earlier in the year, another comment from me in the chat box that you held a series of events targeted at different sectors. I guess what I meant by that comment is, did you perceive that there were particular sectors in manufacturing in Scotland that were either seriously looking at the adoption of robots, or had got the adoption of robots, or perhaps weren't getting or didn't necessarily see where cobots and robots might be applied?
I think for us, it was a bit of let's trial and see, what the interest looks like within those sectors. I think there's obvious ones. Food and drink is very strong in Lanarkshire, primarily. Obviously, as time's gone on, we've seen there's a big demand, around resource, and cobots obviously can form a solution there in helping with efficiencies and productivity, and maybe to address some challenges there, around resource. But to be honest, we're very much putting it out there and seeing ourselves what comes back from the different sectors, where the levels of interest lie. Food and drink came back strong, no doubt. We had a lot of interest from the food and drink sector. Our cobot trial project, 4 out of the 5 are food and drink companies, so I guess that tells its own story, and the other's an engineering company. So I think by the time we get to the end of this project, I think we'll have a really clear insight as to where the demand sits, and I guess that's part of our learning ourselves as part of the project.
Thanks very much, Caroline, on that. If there are no further questions for Caroline, thank you very much. We'll move on to, you're welcome, and we'll move on to our penultimate presentation, which is from Margaret Weir on how the Advanced Manufacturing Centre for the West Highlands project can help businesses, not just in the West Highlands, but perhaps wider afield. Thanks very much, Margaret.
Hi, so I've just done a sort of quick presentation that I'll go through, so just sort of spacing out that where we are. So yes, we are in Fort William, but we are aimed to help the Highlands and the greater overall Scotland as well. our team is built up of myself and Andy, my technician, so just stating that it's European funded as all the other projects are, and that we're looking to help any sort of SME business that's sort of involved in manufacturing, and that we can provide advanced manufacturing technology and experience at zero cost. So, I went a bit faster. Sorry, so again, that was just breaking into both me and Andy's background. So as me as a product design engineering, being able to offer that to the different SMEs, and Andy's background is in CAM. But he is training to be use all the machines currently. So the areas that we are looking at providing for people are sort of 3D scanners, 3D printers, Industry 4.0, CAD and CAM, machining, and project management and research and development. And we sort of listed here sort of the businesses that are local to us sort of looking at, and it's really to try and take some of the scary part away of starting projects or doing the R&D, which will a lot of companies may not have time or experience of doing. So the 3D scanner we've got is very like Brian's group's one. We've got the Leica scanner that does the big surveys or products. We've been using it to do things like capturing motorbikes for a company to use in their CAD to get accurate sizes for their products and where they'll be situated, and also to show their products in it for doing renderings. Also, we've got a smaller one which we've been using on car exhaust to get accurate measurements and bends for a customer who was going to send their products all the way down to England, where they found it was actually on their doorstep. As I say, the CAD, so again, this for an area, we have got a number of CAD softwares that we're offering either for people to come in and use, or if they're not able to come in, we can able to do it for them. If they have CAD models but are unsure how to do the next stage, have someone look at them, we can do that, create engineering drawings for them, which will allow them to move on to the manufacturing part. And so if they stay with us, we have got our 3D printers, which is the extruded plastics, allowing them to create their own parts. And we're sort of telling people, you know, trying to help them and visualize what they can make with this. So doing different sort of jigs, also recreating models they already have. So we've had a lot of interest from potters who have had designs in the past and want to have a solid model of it that they can make their cast from. Then, and then we've got our CNC workshop, which actually we're being trained on at the moment. So we've got a 5-axis CNC, a 3-axis miller, a tool-driven lathe, a wood router, a plasma cutter, and we're saying we can machine anything in steel, aluminium, plastic and wood. So everything we're using here, we're saying, well, if we do the CAD with you or you've got your own CAD, we can create the models for you. The only thing we're not providing is the material, but we have got all the cutting and consumables for the machines. And depending on the level of the ability of the company we're working, some of them will actually be able to come in and use the machines for themselves. We have one customer who is looking to develop a 5-axis product line, but haven't got the justification to buy the machine themselves. So with our help, they're hoping to be able to do their first line of products to prove that's worthwhile getting the machine. And then our last thing is the Industry 4.0, which is very similar to Caroline's project that we've got. So I've just listed here exactly what we have. Now, again, this is to allow people to come in and have a use and see how they could maybe use this stuff within their own company and how relevant it is to them, and see if there's any way that we can help them or resource them in some way of moving from the stage of. And one of the companies that we've been doing things like this with is sort of distillers, so allowing them to see what the next stage is. And especially around our area, it doesn't have to be a big leap, but generally it's sort of small stages. So the way we've been working that is working with some other people like SMAS, who have a project called Shoestring, Digital Shoestring. So we've become an ambassador for that as well, and getting trained on that and hoping to use it in this part of our facility. And then the last was that people can use me in their projects. So as I said, my background is product design engineering, a chartered engineer, and sort of listed how I can help them. So different things. And so there's some companies we're working for that might have only one engineer, and that if they need someone who can do check-offs and sign-offs, or if there's somebody they've hired a new graduate who's doing quite a lot, maybe more senior things than they were expecting, allowing to use a sort of mentoring system with them to help them understand what other technologies are out there and how they should be doing things. And again, that's just my contact. So I did a really quick presentation because I was aware of time. And our way forward at the moment is that we have had our opening, doing tours and welcoming people in and going around and having one-on-one meetings with people. So hopefully by the start of next year, we will be working a lot more one-on-one with companies. Currently, we have got 2 businesses in the centre at the moment getting trained on our lathes at the same time as we are. And later on, before Christmas, we're doing the 5-axis, and we've got 4 different companies coming in to see the 5-axis use, which also means then they'll be able to use the 5-axis themselves without having to have us do it for them.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Another fascinating presentation. I recall a few weeks ago going to a networking event where I met somebody who'd set up a small business during lockdown in which he was using recovered waste. He is a professional diver, and he was using recovered waste from the sea to create plastic pots. And he created a fairly successful business. He'd presented at Chelsea, he'd won various accolades, and now he wanted to move on to the next thing. And this is kind of segue into NMIS in the sense of that we introduced him to I think it was to Grant and A.M. Batts, and the discussions took place as to what was possible with additive manufacturing in terms of design. So I guess that was a fairly unusual application of technologies. So my question is, you mentioned that you'd worked with companies who were, or a company that was looking for a redesign of if I heard it properly, an exhaust system. I guess my question is there some education that we need to offer that allows businesses to think, well, actually, yeah, that could really be for me and not for somebody else? It's almost like when you walk past the gate and you look in and you say, should I go in there? Is that really for me?
Well, I would say a lot of people that were in our facility weren't expecting to see what they did, and I would say we've kind of got a bit of everything. And as I say, we are working mostly currently with local areas, but we can work with anybody in Scotland. So we have we've got some that are working in Murray at the moment. One of the companies are with us. In that case, it's just trying to open them up to the possibilities. And we've had some resistance with some people not understanding what we're offering, but we're finding when someone else finds out they're getting something free, more people are coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to get a free lunch. I see a discussion between David and Robin in the chat box that saying that obviously AMC West Highlands is able to work with business outside of the HIE region. I guess my question was really about what do we need to do to actually, you kind of want a bit of a rock star performance, almost a TV. I don't know if it lends itself to radio presentations about what's possible, the art of the possible using these different kinds of technologies. This is just me wittering and speculating, but encouraging people to come in and debunk that nonsense or maybe contribute to it. But thank you, Margaret, for that. Our last presentation is Gregor from NMIS, and we've left the biggest perhaps to the last. I'm sure everybody, Greg, knows a lot already about NMIS, but I think you're going to give a slightly different slant to your presentation today on particularly the online digital manufacturing leadership program and training that can be offered. So thanks for doing this, and over to you.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks to yourself and the team from Seed for hosting us today, and good morning, everyone. Just wait for Jane, I think. There we go. We get my slides up now. As Patrick said, I'm Greg Cranston. I work for the Manufacturing Skills Academy, which is part of NMIS, the National Manufacturing Institute for Scotland. I'm here to talk to you today mainly about our AMCF project on online digital manufacturing and leadership CPD. I'll give you a quick overview of NMIS in case anyone's not come across us before, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about our project. So what is NMIS? As you can see from the diagram, the NMIS core is composed of a number of specialist centres administered by the University of Strathclyde. Some, like the Advanced Forum and Research Centre, have been around for a little bit longer than others, and some, like the Digital Factory, are still under development. Ourselves in the Manufacturing Skill Academy are also one of the newer units, so we're very much at the forming stage at the moment. We're all soon to be hosted in our new facility at Netherton campus near the Glasgow airport, which has obviously been delayed by our ongoing COVID issues. And once we're there, we'll be bringing industry together with academia and public sector to support the manufacturing industry across Scotland. Our support in the form of research, access to our specialist facilities, training, building partnerships, the full range really. So as you can see in the bottom left, the Manufacturing Skills Academy is one of the core elements of NMIS, and our remit's really to support everything training and skills related. Can you pop on to the next slide, please? So the MSA aims to support skills development across all career levels in manufacturing, from young people considering a career in the industry through to experienced engineers looking to upskill or reskill. We're supporting companies to embrace Industry 4 and help address the well-known productivity gap that the UK faces when compared to our global neighbours. By operating at the forefront of the manufacturing industry, we're well placed to identify future skills gaps and put structures and training in place to help companies prepare for the future. We're also here to showcase how exciting a career in manufacturing can be and to encourage the next generation to pursue that career. Can you pop us on to the next slide, please? So a little bit of scene setting is now out of the way. We'll move on to the main reason that I'm speaking here today. Our project is led by the University of Strathclyde, and it's focused on skills training. And we're developing a range of online content in the areas of digital manufacturing and leadership. Our content's designed in partnership with experts from the university, from NMIS, and also from with the support of external experts from industry and other supporting organisations like Seed and SMAS. Our content's intended to help business leaders raise their awareness of the different technologies and also helping them make more informed and strategic decisions about what's right for their business and implementing the right technologies to move the business forward. Next slide, please. So in terms of the services that we're providing, our projects will provide free online and flexible access to digital manufacturing and leadership CPD programs across multiple sectors. The skills training will help de-risk investment decisions, and we want to see more companies using and investing in new ways of working, which will in turn lead to new commercialisation opportunities. COVID-19 has given organisations an opportunity to reimagine the workforce, and we'd like to support SMEs through this process. So our content will be made available free of charge to SMEs across Scotland. We're also developing a range of cross-sectional case studies to showcase the benefits of using these new approaches and technologies. Case studies will support our training portfolio, helping to give our users an insight into digital transformation in the real world and some of the impacts it's made across businesses throughout Scotland. In addition to our suite of digital assets, we'll be working closely with a number of manufacturing SMEs to provide a strategic intervention and aid companies on their digital transformation journey in a number of different ways. So we're developing a skills assessment tool to help guide companies to identify key skills and skills gaps and assist us in delivering bespoke training packages. We're also helping SMEs access additional support either directly with NMIS or with external support organisations such as SMAS. And we can also support companies to explore available funding and help with knowledge transfer and upskilling. We're also able to do more bespoke interventions. We've visited a few companies to look at their processes and make some suggestions as to technology that they could implement to make the process more efficient or more green, especially now that we're starting to focus on the circular economy. So as you can see, there's our content libraries around the diagram of Scotland on the right-hand side, covering everything from additive manufacturing, AR, VR, cybersecurity, through the full range. And their training's designed to work from introductory level right through to a more advanced skill level to take people on a full journey to upskill in these different areas. Next slide, please. So we're delivering our, again, another impact of COVID. We're delivering primarily online. We had intended to have a blended model with some online delivery and some face-to-face based at NMIS, but obviously COVID has turned our project on its head somewhat. So we've implemented a fully online strategy at the moment. It's a couple of screenshots from our learning platform that we've implemented. It's again designed to give the most engaging and interactive experience to our learners. And our courses can include various forms of multimedia, video, knowledge checks, and also some gamification to keep things interesting for our users. If anybody would like to have a more detailed look over our platform and our content, just get in touch and I'll be happy to give you a tour. Next slide, please. So I hope we've given you a quick overview of the type of engaging learning environment that we're looking to create. And just before I finish up, I've got a couple of asks, really just an invitation to get in touch with the project team. If you're interested in finding out more about our digital assets and how SMEs can access our content, we're obviously happy to discuss and share our plans. We use a voice of the customer approach when developing our content, helping us prioritise. So again, let us know if you've got ideas for new content or if you'd be interested in co-developing some course material. As I've said, we're interested in working with external partners as well, so we're always happy to take feedback from the industry. Similarly, we're looking for interesting case studies to help showcase digital transformation within the manufacturing industry. So again, if you know any interesting companies who'd be interested in sharing their experiences and sharing their story, please get in touch. We're looking to embark on filming some video case studies come the new year. So we're always looking for new participants and any interesting stories that we can tell. And if you can pop me onto my last slide. So just some contact information there about the key members of our project team. As I said, we're more than happy to discuss in a bit more detail, and we're always keen to show people around our learning platform. So feel free to get in touch with myself or any of the team. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to our hosts at Seed for hosting the session today, and I will hand you back over to Patrick.
Thank you very much, Greg, for an excellent presentation. I'm getting some feedback from somebody's laptop. That's a bit better. So yeah, no, thank you very much, Greg, for that. I remember a conversation we had about visibility of the content. I'm not an engineer, but it struck me that I took to your site. If I were an engineer and wanted to learn about digital approaches, that would be a fantastic place to go. But the question is, what can we do to make this content even more visible, and how can others on this call help you make that material available, whether you're a company or a university, who I'm sure would benefit, their students would benefit from this information.
Absolutely, Patrick. I think even listening to some of the other presentations from some of the other projects today, there's skills has a piece in so many of the projects. I think there's great opportunities to certainly work across the projects to help to get a bit of visibility. And I think again, part of the issue that we see is a lot of SMEs they don't know what they don't know. So that's partially what we're here to do, is to help give them that little bit of visibility on these new technologies and help them fill in those gaps so that they can make better informed decisions. So absolutely, I think increasing our visibility both for the SME community and also for students, more than happy to do so. Our platform's there to to host that material, and we're always happy to get people through our content.
And a plug, I think, Jane, the opinion piece that Greg's written with Seed is about to go out on the Scotsman very soon.
Yes, soon we'll confirm when.
Okay.
Probably be January.
Well,
yeah, unless it's a Christmas party piece, then January is probably the best.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you everybody that came along today. I think all of the projects would have learned from each other. Projects we do meet collectively and individually, but I think this was an excellent presentation from those projects that took the time to tell us about what they could do. If there are still businesses and universities who are on the call, want to know more, do get in touch with Seed. Here are some contact details for you to follow up on. We will share these presentations. Don't be shy to talk to each other. And thank you very much. And we look forward to meeting you for our next presentation, which I have to say I'm not sure what that is at the moment, but do go and look at the Seed events page and come along and join another Seed webinar, hopefully soon to be face-to-face, perhaps in the new year. So thanks very much, comment, and thank you, Susan, for the comment. You're saying you're happy to hear from anyone with skills development for SMEs supporting organisations. Okay, I don't know if you want to open up your mic, Susan, and amplify that a little bit as I'm making such a mess of what you've written.
Hi, Patrick. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, Susan. Yeah.
Hi. Thanks very much. I'm Suzanne McQuaid. I'm the Business Relationships Manager for the Open University in Scotland. I just wanted to quickly flag, given that skills has been coming through as a key theme across a lot of the presentations this morning, that we're currently working with SMEs in Scotland through the Flexible Workforce Development Fund, and there's a particular focus on digital and leadership capability. So anyone want to find out a wee bit more about that, perhaps talk about how we can work together, please do feel free to put me an email.
So, Susan, perhaps some of that information that Greg told us about might be shared with those SMEs?
Absolutely.
So there's action for you, Greg, if you're still here, to follow up with Suzanne on that. And I'm, having worked with the Flexible Workforce Development Fund in the past, I can only say what a great instrument it is to engage SMEs to work with universities and colleges. Thanks, Susan.